Last year, it was all about tax cuts. This year, it seems to be all about trade and the prospect that tariffs and retaliation on those tariffs could take back at least some of the benefits from tax reduction, with particular concerns about the possible effects on farmers, something that the president tweeted about just this morning, saying, quote, "China is targeting our farmers who they know I love and respect as a way of getting me to continue allowing them to take advantage of the United States. They are being vicious in what will be their failed attempt. We're being nice until now. China made $517 billion on us last year." That's according to the president. We welcome now to Bloomberg Senator David Perdue, Republican from Georgia and Senate Banking Committee member. He is also the former CEO of Reebok and Dollar General. Senator, it's great to have you back with us. We always enjoy speaking with you.
Good morning, David.
So, I mean, we've talked about this a fair amount. You were one of the staunchest supporters of tax cuts, and you got that done with the president. You were right there by his side. Are you concerned, sir, that in fact all of this trade tension, trade talks, tariffs could take back some of those benefits for CEOs such as you used to be?
Well, it's the topic of the day. You know, last year, as you called out on your show, we worked on regulations, energy, taxes. This year, we got a Dodd-Frank bill. We've released $6 trillion back into the economy under this president. This year, he wanted to work on infrastructure, immigration, and trade. Now, look, I've said this publicly. I'm not a big fan of using tariffs to get people to the table. You know, we have South Korea now has come back to the table. We have a new free trade agreement with South Korea. Look, this president has a different negotiating style. We saw that with NATO. Now NATO is doubling their commitment to their own national defense. We're close to a deal on NAFTA. I'm very concerned that tariffs actually pick winners and losers, though, and that's what we're trying to deal with here. But rest assured one thing, President Trump has one mission in mind, and that is to create a more level playing field for all of our industry here in the United States.
There are reports, as you know, sir, that there's a proposal being put together for $12 billion in aid for farmers because of the possible effects of these tariffs. And some of your fellow Republican senators came out yesterday fairly strongly against it. I'll just read one of them, Ron Johnson from Wisconsin. He said, "My thoughts are the thoughts of farmers. They want trade, not aid. It's really just that simple." Do you agree with that?
Well, I just did a tour of my state with the Secretary of Agriculture. We met a lot of farmers all over the state. I talk to them every week on this. Obviously, they're being targeted by China right now specifically. But you know what? The message I heard overwhelmingly in my state is that they're interested in more exports, more equal access, is exactly what Senator Johnson just said. The fact that right now these farmers are committed to the long term getting equal access right now. I mean, there are so many examples where other countries can get access to our market and we don't have access to theirs, and that's what I support. I think there are a lot of ways to get there. We're moving into that stage right now, though, David, where we need to be moving into specific conversations with other countries about equal access.
Are we making progress, sir? I mean, as a CEO, you were a pragmatist. You'd pursue a good line as long as you thought it might work. At some point, you had to change your mind. Does there come a point where we're doing more harm than good and the president has to really rethink his approach on tariffs?
Well, I take that as a compliment. I am a pragmatist, and our president is as well. He comes from the business community. He's demonstrated over and over again that he's willing to back up and go a different direction. That's what business is. You're trying to get success and you're trying to get accomplishments happen in a reasonable amount of time. Unfortunately, in Washington, it's not set up that way, and it's very frustrating for President Trump. Right now, I believe we have examples of that. NAFTA, the president said he wanted to blow up NAFTA. Well, he's been in there negotiating in good faith, and I think we're very close to the deal. He wanted to blow up the free trade agreement or the arrangement we had with South Korea. Now we have a much more level playing field with South Korea because of a new FTA. I believe that right now we're in the phase with China and with other countries where we can move into specific conversations about where we don't get equal access. That's what this is really all about.
So, Senator, that's twice now you said we're close on NAFTA. And there are reports that there are some high-level discussions for the first time in some months going on this week. Do you have some insight into the discussions that would give you some confidence we will have a deal? There's talk about perhaps an end of August deadline.
David, I'm a lowly senator here. I'm not in the free trade agreement and negotiation. But I will say this. Every time I talk to the president, he talks about it. He wants a deal. We're very close to a deal. I don't think there's any purpose served by putting a timeline on it. I think we're dealing in good faith. I think our partners are now dealing in good faith. And look, this is so important that we have Mexico and Canada and the United States in a solid trade agreement. I think the president knows that, and he's moving to achieve that.
Senator, Georgia is interesting, particularly Atlanta, because it has so many headquarters for major businesses, like a Home Depot, for example. If those CEOs call you up and say, look, how am I supposed to plan my business over the next 18 months when the tariff trade wars are in such jeopardy, what do you tell them? What
this
are you
is
hearing?
This is the number one problem we had in the Obama administration, right? When we were over-regulated, you had uncertainty in Washington, and that tied up $2 trillion of capital. I just mentioned all the work we did last year and early this year to free up $6 trillion to come back into the economy. And one thing you have to have as a CEO is you have to have certainty looking forward in order to forecast your plans. We've seen in the early quarterly reports, the earnings reports so far this year, dramatic increases in CapEx plans. Now we're hearing some uncertainty about that, and that really is disturbing to me as a CEO. I will say this, that people are now looking, though, at exports in a different light under this president. We never saw that capability before. Now we see an opportunity to actually grow our exports. And I'll say this, if we're going to continue to grow at 3.5% like we're doing right now, we have to grow our exports long term.
So on the CapEx question, which is so critical, that was supposed to get our productivity up. We are, as you say, seeing some softening there. If you were a CEO today, wouldn't you pull back a little bit until you at least know what's going on with trade?
Well, the problem is that it's about tariffs, and tariffs create winners and losers. It depends on what sector you're in, obviously. If you're in steel, you're investing every dime you can go borrow right now and raise, right? If you're in the auto industry, you might have a little different look. What we're looking at right now is there's a lot of capital looking to be employed. There are a lot of great projects out there. What we need to do is give some certainty in terms of the trade and access issue. And I think the president knows that, and his advisors are working hard to get that. Look, this is an uncertain time, but we've dealt with this for over 40 years, an unlevel playing field. We've reduced global poverty by almost 2/3, while our poverty rate in the United States hasn't moved one iota since 1965 and the Great Society's War on Poverty was signed. So this president is trying to get through this dirty period to get to a point where we do have equal access and an open or level playing field.
Okay, Senator, as I said, it's always a pleasure and a privilege to have you with us. Really appreciate your time.
Good to see you guys.
That's Republican Senator David Perdue coming from Georgia. Thank you, Alex.
Thanks.